Just as we predicted here in this channel, Saudi Arabia is getting their target. They're gonna get petrol to go to $100 per barrel. And Mercedes CEO does not want the European Union to ban the electrical vehicles from China. And Binance.us has lost 98% of their trading volume. And Mark Miller, US General, affirmed that Ukraine cannot win. And it's not just him, Donald Trump has a similar view. And Biden, at least in my view, seems to be his worst enemy when it comes to his campaign. And Tom Emmer says that cryptocurrencies and CBDC are a sleeper issue for the next year election. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren is getting support from 9 different senators. Hi, welcome to the channel. We're going to be discussing those and a few more subjects. And as usual, we're going to begin with Bloomberg. And the main headline on Bloomberg is the fact that petrol may be reaching $100 mark. And we have made a video about this in this channel where Saudi Arabia was cutting down production to get the price because they need the price to be $100 per barrel. And we can see here, as crude futures leap higher, traders, analysts are increasingly talking about when, not if, prices will return to $100 per barrel. And of course, as OPEC countries such as Saudi Arabia and Russia cut their production, that forced refinery to be eating their stockpiles. And we can see that the price is significantly going up since June. You can see the price was between $70 to $80 in June. Now it's already around $9.45. So I do see the price going up to $100, especially after the video we made recently in this channel where Iran controls a strait where 1/3 of all petrol must pass through, and that also is going to help the price to go up. Now, since we're talking about petrol, let's talk about automobiles, especially electrical ones. The CEO of Mercedes is asking the European Union to keep the market open. I really appreciate his view. He believes that we need an open market and consumers need to have access to all automobiles produced on the planet. He talks about how European automobiles compete on American market, so does Japanese automobiles compete on American market. There's a South American market. There is also automobiles here in Europe that are manufactured in the US, Japan, and other places. So he believes that all markets should be available to all consumers and the free market needs to decide. And of course, I believe he's affirming this because he needs components made all over the world. He says here, we have learned in the pandemic that supply chains can be fragile. That's his words. Adding, Mercedes cars rely on components from all 5 manufacturing continents. It would be a complete illusion to think that we can divide the automobile world into individual regions that have nothing to do with each other. I really agree with him. I think he's totally right. And I believe the free market is the best way to go. Now, let's talk about Ukraine and Russia. The US general believes that removing Russia from Ukraine is a very high bar, if not impossible. And who is saying this? Army General Mark Milley. And he's saying here, Ukrainian victory in the conflict is a very high bar and would take a very long time. I do not think that Ukraine has a long time. We have made videos in this channel where he also says that Ukraine has about 30 to 45 days with their counteroffensive because there is a change on weather. We're going to have rains and we're going to have the cold winter coming very soon. He also said that the objective of removing, of course, the Russians won't be possible. However, the country is currently in counteroffensive. And he explains why. He gives some real numbers. I can tell you that it will take a considerable length of time. He doesn't give numbers when it comes to time, but he gives numbers in terms of what is Ukraine up against. I have made a video where I explain exactly what Ukraine is up against on the counteroffensive. Please use link above. You can see here the length of time to the military to eject all 200,000 or plus Russian troops out of the Russian occupied Ukraine. It is a very high bar and will take a long time to do it. And as I said, Ukraine may not have time, because the feeling in the West is that Ukraine of counteroffensive is too slow and is depleting a lot of ammunition and a lot of resources from the West. And in my view, Ukraine cannot fight this war alone. They would need the support of the West. If they don't have that, I don't think they can push Russia or continue fighting. And it's not just him. You can see here, Donald Trump said, we have to negotiate and give up part of the Ukraine's territory. Donald Trump also said that if he gets reelected, he will end the war in 24 hours. And I think his strategy, at least that's my view, he would just cut the support for Ukraine. And since we're talking about the election, let's talk about Biden. Biden, in my view, is his worst enemy when it comes to the next year campaign. He's having a meeting with Lula, and he's trying to create some kind of alliance or a way to connect the American Union with the South American Union. And the thing is, even though he's trying to defend the union workers, the thing is, there's a strike today in the US, and those on the strike of the automobile industry are not supporting Biden because he has agendas that are not congruent, or at least not in harmony with one another. One of his agendas, for instance, I have made a video about this, is where he's really pushing for green energy and electrical automobiles. Because guess what? In order to produce electrical vehicles, the manufacturers need only 40% of the workers that they would normally need to produce combustion engine automobiles. Therefore, the ones on strike right now are not really on the side of Biden. And I think a country that gives too much power to their union will push out or drive out the private sector. And that means less jobs for those who want to work. Once the employees become too powerful, it becomes not favorable for the large companies to be operating in that country. And the reason is because that increases the cost of production. In the case of the automobile strike, for instance, they want a 40% raise. Well, if they get the 40% raise plus the benefits, the cost of productivity of those automobiles will rise. And other places in the world, such for instance as China, the workers may not have the same benefits and they may have a more competitive product. If they have a more competitive product, you may be paying your workers high, but you may not be able to sell your products to their customers for the price that you desire, and that will hurt the private sector. On my view, it may push the private sector, or at least those manufacturers, to another place, or may cause the bankruptcy of those who are generating jobs. So it's a very delicate situation. If you want to know more about these kind of things, please consider joining the Academy, and if you disagree with me, please let me know on the comments below. Now, you may also be asking why a crypto channel is talking about the next presidential election in the US. And the reason is because if the Republicans win and Ukraine doesn't get the support, that means less disruption on the supply chain and more flow of petrol and fertilizer and so on. And the prices may come down. If the prices do come down, interest rates may come down and may have a bull market sooner. If the war continues, I see a lot of inflationary pressure on energy, which means deflationary pressure on risky assets such as Bitcoin. Now, that was on the traditional finance, and since we're talking about Bitcoin, let's talk about cryptocurrencies. And one thing I want to talk about cryptocurrencies is this. A lot of people see cryptocurrencies as risky assets and people involved in crypto doing things that are illegal. And look at this. The ex-Deutsche banker will plead guilty to crypto fraud. Former Deutsche Bank investment banker Rasham Russell, who has denied defrauding investors in a cryptocurrency fraud, appears ready to change his mind and plead guilty to fraud charges. Now, his lawyer refused to comment on this, but the thing is, there's a large group of people that believe banks are okay and cryptocurrencies are for crooks and criminals. But we can see here how people in the banking system are also crooks and they do not have their investors or their clients' best interests in mind. At least that's my view. If you don't agree, please let me know on the comments below. And now again on America. Tom Emmer says that digital assets will be a sleeper issue for the elections. Look at this. Tom Emmer, who is the majority whip of the United States House of Representatives and also a crypto proponent, says that digital assets have become a sleeper issue in the US politics, both at state and the federal levels. He pointed that financial privacy concerns, specifically mentioning government oversight of central bank digital currencies. I couldn't agree more. Privacy is something which is really at risk when it comes to central bank digital currencies. And he says here, Democrats, Republicans, and others believe that your personal information is supposed to be yours and you get to choose when to share it. And the thing is, a lot of people may not know this, but when, for instance, you make a transaction with your card, you're giving your private personal information to 5 different agencies or companies, and those companies are now responsible for protecting your data. If there's a leak of your data, it will be very difficult to determine where that leakage have occurred. So cryptocurrencies, when you transact, you give 0 private information, which is very different than the banking system, just as we have right now with digital money on a card. And central bank digital currencies is going to bring that to a whole different level, where the central banks not only would know exactly what you spend on, but also be able to control what you spend on. And I love this part here. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Republican polling second behind former President Donald Trump promised in July to ban central bank digital currencies in the US should they be elected. So as a crypto enthusiast, I'm not in America. Part of me really feels like I'd rather have a Republican president next year. At least those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Please let me know in the comments below. Now, I cannot vote in America. I'm not an American resident or citizen, but I'm someone who is really enthusiastic about cryptocurrencies, and I do see better regulations or more open approach to cryptocurrencies as something positive. And there's one part here that I read and I don't agree, and I do not see how that's possible. He says here that the US government can do central bank digital currency if it is open, permissionless, and private, and it has to emulate cash. I don't think it will emulate cash, and I have made a video here where the chair of IBS says that CBDCs are not cash. Link above or on the description below. And of course, as we mentioned on a video previous, Emmer has reinforced a bill that aimed to limiting the Federal Reserve from issuing CBDCs in the United States of America. I do not see why a Western democracy needs central bank digital currency. I can see why China needs it. I don't see why America does need one. Now, the Binance.US versus SEC hearing began yesterday, and the SEC is already accusing Binance of not cooperating. The thing is, there has been some sealed documents or documents that are not authorized to be opened for the case, and these sealed documents contain 117 pages. Among them are internal Binance.US documents, emails, and SEC court filings, including the memorandum in Binance.US compliance with SEC discovery efforts. The thing is, I know it's a case hearing, and I think it doesn't matter in my view at this point if the SEC wins or Binance.US wins, because to me, Binance.US has already lost this. And the reason why I say this is because Binance.US trading volume has dropped significantly. You can see here 98% decreasing on the trading volume. When that happens, it doesn't really matter if you win the case or not. At least those are my thoughts. If you do not agree, please let me know on the comments below. Now, something else happening in the US since we're talking about court. Let's talk about the New York Department of Financial Service. It seems like they're trying to create another regulation. You can see here, the Superintendent Adrienne Harris had released proposals on guidance for enhanced criteria for coin listing and delisting procedures, in addition to a framework for designing coins tokens to the regulator's green list. Since joining the Department of Financial Service, I have made a priority to ensure the department's regulatory and operational capabilities to keep pace with industry development to protect consumers and markets. I'm not in the US, I'm not in New York, I'm not sure if this claim is real, but when I hear authorities saying protecting consumer, it normally seems to be negative to cryptocurrencies. If you're in New York and you know more about this, please let me know in the comments below. Another thing that is also happening in the US is Elizabeth Warren. And if there is a person that embodies and symbolizes a anti-cryptocurrency feeling in the US, in my view, I'm not in the country, is Elizabeth Warren. And she has got the support of 9 different senators. And we can see here, 9 United States senators have added their support to Senator Elizabeth Warren's Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, according to a statement from Warren's office. Now, if you want to have an idea of how strong she is against cryptocurrency, just make a search looking for how she expressed about cryptocurrency. But look at this. Our expanding coalition shows that Congress is ready to take action. Our bipartisan bill is the toughest proposal on the table, cracking down on crypto's illicit use and giving regulators more tools in their toolbox. She wants to give more power to the regulators. And she goes on. This bill has also been endorsed by Transparency International US, Global Financial Integrity, and National District Attorneys Association, the major county sheriffs of America, the National Consumer Law Center, and the National Consumers League. And to me, the most significant part of this bill is this. It intends to crack down on non-custodial digital wallets. Now, the whole idea of cryptocurrency is that you become the custodian. Custodial wallets are pretty much the opposite of the philosophy and the intent of cryptocurrencies. If she's going after non-custodial wallets, she's just killing the industry and she's preventing individuals from being sovereign financially and responsible for their own finance and their own assets. Now, even though she is pushing against this, I think it's good that there's also other politicians pushing pro-crypto. Now, my question to you is, what is your view on Elizabeth Warren's bill? Please let me know in the comments below. With this, I wrap up this video. Now, if you did like this video, please click the like button, also subscribe and click the notification bell. See you guys on the next video.